Alright, today we're reviewing the Ibanez RGA21P1PB. This is a part of the premium series. This is the fixed bridge version. And while I am a big Ibanez fan, I originally wasn't planning on buying this guitar. However, I have wanted a fixed bridge RGA for basically forever. I just sold a guitar I wasn't really playing anymore, and these became available sooner than I thought they would be, so I picked one up. This of course is going to be a first impression review. I just got this guitar. I am planning on doing a long-term review down the line. But I do have to say that I'm not sponsored by Ibanez or any brand shown in this video. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about the looks and the quality first. I do realize looks are subjective. I personally think this guitar looks cool. You've got the poplar burl. If you like the burl figuring, then you're in luck. The low gloss finish does look pretty nice. And you may love or hate the fake neck through here. I personally don't mind it that much. I think it looks pretty cool. If you don't like it because the guitar isn't a neck through, fair enough. Now the finish does look great, but I did notice there is just a little bit of overspray on the natural binding here. You can't really notice it from this distance, but if you're up close scrutinizing it, you will see it. The guitar as a whole feels better than I thought it would be. It feels pretty solid. I had an S Premium that I had before this that I ended up selling a while ago. And this guitar feels much more solid than that one ever did. Between the body and the neck, this is starting to feel almost like a Prestige. Not exactly like a Prestige, but this feels pretty good, much better than I expected. And of course, for this price, you would really hope that is the case. Now for the electronics, they feel pretty good. The 5-way switch has a satisfying click to it. The Ultra switch here is a pretty good mini toggle. The potentiometers feel solid. They don't scratch when you turn them. They have just enough friction that they won't accidentally turn. And I haven't noticed any problems with the wiring or the output jack. I did mention this is a first impression review. I haven't had this guitar that long, but if the wiring does fail, I'll make a video to update you guys about it. The body feels solidly built. It's not too heavy, not too light. There's no sharp edges, no binding mistakes. Nothing feels unfinished. But speaking of the finish on the body, the low gloss finish, it does feel pretty smooth, pretty nice, but when you're playing it with bare skin, for example, it does kind of stick a little bit if you move around a bit. I think if you were wearing a sleeve or you were drenched in sweat, that wouldn't really be an issue. But just a heads up if your technique, and we'll talk more about playability, but if your technique has your arm moving a bit more, there might be some friction. Now, let's talk about the neck, and I think I was the most surprised about the neck. My initial impressions were it has that kind of, I don't know what it's called exactly, but that Prestige kind of coating. So that stuff they put on the neck, they spray on the neck to make it feel played in. It doesn't have quite as much as, say, a J Custom or the Prestiges that cost more. But for the Prestiges that cost less, they have just about as much as this, if not less. Same goes for the Made in Japan Genesis too. And I'll talk about the playability later, but the construction feels very solid. Again, approaching Prestige level, which you would hope for this almost Prestige level price. The 5-piece maple and walnut neck seem to be made of high quality wood, and so is the fretboard, the ebony fretboard. It feels very smooth, so they picked some wood with some tight grain. Of course, then the elephant in the room, talking about quality of parts, components, the nut is made of plastic. And while it hasn't been awful so far, and I have set up the guitar, I've set the action, the intonation, adjusted the truss rod, not in that order, of course. I've oiled the fretboard, changed the strings, stretched out the strings, let everything settle. There is still some string binding at the nut. There is still some tuning instability. It's not unusable, but you do have to keep it in mind. And I purposefully didn't put any kind of coating on the nut or kind of lubrication on it, tricks you can do. I didn't replace the nut because I wanted to see exactly how bad it would be, so I could let you guys know. After all, if you clicked on this video, this probably is something you want to know about. I think down the line, I will maybe replace the nut if it comes to that, if it gets really bad. Moving on from the nut, this guitar has locking tuners. They say Goto on them. They work as advertised. No surprises there. I'm personally a fan of locking tuners, and I am also personally a fan of the stainless steel frets. These don't have the Prestige fret end treatment, but you're not going to be slicing open your fingers, running your hand up and down the neck. And the frets themselves, they feel nice and smooth. Just what you'd expect from good quality stainless steel. Now let's talk about the playability. I already mentioned the Prestige coating or whatever it's called on the neck. There's not a lot of it, but there's just enough. You might even prefer this. It doesn't feel sticky in any way. Of course, playing the guitar with the maple neck, with the ebony fretboard and the stainless steel frets, it is that kind of modern superstrat feel that you'd come to expect. If you're looking for a guitar like this, you're not going to be disappointed in that respect. But in talking about the neck profile, it does almost feel like a Wizard III neck in a way. Only if you hold a guitar with this, I guess, Ibanez premium neck profile and a Wizard III neck profile, then you can feel the differences. This one feels just a little bit thinner. This one is a bit more chunky. If you just played an Ibanez with a Wizard III, put it down, did something else for a while, then pick this up, it might almost feel the same. And you might prefer this, maybe the super ultra thin necks that you'd find on a J Custom, for example. Maybe that gives you hand fatigue. This neck feels like a good compromise between just enough chunk to fill your hand, even if you're playing the thumb behind the neck style, and thinness, so you can comfortably play the thumb behind the neck style. Feels like a good balance. I've told this story before in other videos, but to summarize, when I got my first more recent Ibanez Prestige, I noticed the neck was thicker than what was on my 2013 RG655. And I was about to return it. I was kind of disappointed, but I just played it for a bit, and then just for a bit turned into a few hours. I found the neck was very comfortable and my hand wasn't tired at all. So in playing this RGA, even though it's not a Prestige neck profile, I'm still feeling that same kind of phenomenon. So I like it. Moving on from the neck to the body, I want to talk about the finish again. I want to address the low gloss finish. I did say it feels a bit sticky. There's some friction between the finish and your exposed skin if you're playing without long sleeves. And I noticed this especially if you have a palm muting technique where your thumb is kind of touching the body like this. It will rub up against this meat part of your thumb. If your technique doesn't put your hand there, or if you don't mind something like this, then that's okay. I kind of mind a little bit, but it's not enough to make me stop playing this guitar. Of course, time might change my sentiment. Talking about the body as a whole, the arch top feels nice. It's exactly what you'd expect from an arch top superstrat. It's a different feel than an RG that has a flat top, while still having the flat RG back with the belly cut. Of course, the cutaways and carves make fret access perfect. You can see they've got the carves on both the lower and upper horn. And then if you turn to the back, there's the carve on the lower horn too. So very, very nice. If you're a super ultra shredder playing thumb behind the neck like this, you're not really going to hit your hand against the lower horn unless you're really, really trying. I'm not saying I'm a super ultra shredder, but if that's you, then keep that in mind. You're going to have a good time playing this guitar. Moving on to the controls and the switch feel fairly out of the way. It is possible to hit your pinky against the volume pot if you're moving a lot, if you're really trying. I don't really encounter that issue, so you'll probably be fine. Moving to the bridge, this has the Gibraltar Standard III bridge. I've played the Standard 2s before, so I noticed the saddles on this are a different shape, whereas the Standard 2 has a kind of rounded top on the saddle, where the height adjustment bolt things are, it's higher, it's elevated. So this feels okay for now. I actually prefer this. It might be a bit irritating in the future, but it's not exactly a sharp contour. It doesn't feel bad against my hand. It took me less time to adjust to this bridge than it did to the Gibraltar Standard 2. I do want to say though that this doesn't quite feel like a hip shot because of that. This bridge doesn't feel like a hip shot, but it's not terrible. It's not bad. I think it's pretty good. Now for the sound demo, let's hear how this guitar sounds with a clean tone, a metal rhythm tone, and a lead tone. And I'll do a full mix demo at the end of this video. There we have it. So some quick thoughts on the sound. This guitar has the Fusion Edge pickups, and they do get some hate on the internet. I personally actually like them. From my experiences with my RG5320, that also has the Fusion Edges in them. They've always worked out in my mix. Every now and then I've thought about replacing them, but I never do, just because whenever I test them out with various tones, whatever new I've cooked up, they sound just fine. They get the job done. And they seem to fit into my mixes pretty well too. Or maybe I've just listened to them enough that I've gone crazy. I'm happy to say that I like how these sound in this guitar, maybe even more so than the other one. I'd say the cleans are workable, the cleans are passable, and the Ultra Switch, I was actually surprised. I was planning on swapping out all that wiring and stuff to make it a kill switch, but after playing around with it with the cleans, I can hear some usable tones in there. I won't use them all the time. I do prefer the simplicity of going either full neck, full bridge, maybe sometimes position 4, but I think I might throw those in to my writing in the future, to my recording. I was pretty pleased with the rhythm tone I was getting out of this. I could see it doing metal and rock very well, and same with the lead tone. Now, overall thoughts. Let's start with, do I like this guitar? Well, unsurprisingly, yes, I do. I finally have a fixed bridge RGA. It has about 95%, 99% of the specs I like, and it's great. I had a lot of fun playing it for this video. The plastic nut and the resulting minor tuning instability is going to get annoying over time, and I'm eventually going to do something about that, but everything else is pretty much how I'd want it. On top of that, this does feel like the best Indonesian-made guitar that I've gotten my hands on. I'm not saying Indonesian-made guitars are bad. I think a lot of them are very good. I like them, and I have a bunch of them, like this S671, like this Solar A 1.6, but this does feel a cut above those, both in terms of playability and quality. And I don't think it's the other guitar's fault. I think in general, guitars made in various factories might be built to a certain price point, and so compromises are made in quality, in materials used, etc. to meet that price point. This might be speculation, but maybe the higher price of this guitar is in part because they wanted to make something a bit higher quality, change what compromises they were making. Is the guitar worth it? Well, that's going to be up to you if you're an Ibanez fan, if you really love the RGA shape, if this guitar has all the specs you're looking for, or if you're looking for a modern superstrat with the stainless steel frets with the archtop body, the whole 9 yards. This guitar is a strong choice. However, some of the decisions made in making this guitar might make you reconsider. For example, that plastic nut. I talked about compromises, and that is a strange compromise to make. It wouldn't exactly break the bank to use any other nut material. Why plastic? I'm struggling to understand why they did this. Besides that, you might not be sold on the pickups. They work perfectly fine for me. I have no issues with them. I'm actually not planning on changing them out. But if having aftermarket pickups is a requirement for you, be it Fishman Fluence Moderns, bare knuckle pickups, DiMarzios, Seymour Duncans, etc., you might be asking yourself, why would you pay this price to then have to switch the pickups anyway? Then of course there's the question, what about compared to a made in Japan Ibanez, as this price for this guitar is approaching the Prestiges, and it is more expensive than the Genesis series. If you need to have a made in Japan Ibanez and you want to save a bunch of money, the Genesis is a great choice. Obviously it doesn't have the all-access neck joint. This may or may not be an issue to you. It's not the end of the world. The all-access neck joint is very luxurious. I do like it a lot. Of course, also the look of these guitars. The camera might not be capturing it that well, but this guitar is in desert yellow. It's a very highlighter yellow, very 80s guitar. Maybe that aesthetic isn't going to work for you. For example, you might be in a band where the aesthetic is a bit more muted, just like you might not bring a BC Rich to a country gig. Although now that I've said that, there's probably going to be 50 people who jump out from behind the bushes in the comment section and say they bring their Warlocks to their country gigs. Who knows? Of course, if you absolutely have to have the arch top, then getting the RG might be a non-starter, as it is a different body shape. Of course, if you absolutely have to have the arch top, then getting an RG without one might be a non-starter. But what do you think? Is this new RGA a great addition to the models in the lineup? Or would you maybe reach for a different guitar from a different brand? Let me know down in the comments below. You know this is YouTube, so I gotta say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. Join the Discord, check out the socials. If you're looking for something cool to listen to, please consider streaming my music. I do some originals, some video game covers. I'm on Spotify and all major streaming services. And as always, peace.